would do now before the court is basically agree to come up with a compliant affordable housing plan.
Okay.
And and so basically anything's on the table. So if a developer has an assisted living project that is permitted under COA's regulations, their towns get affordable housing credit through a number of beds in the assisted living facility. So it's not like a house, but you get it like per bed. I don't, at least the regulations as they are now, would not allow a municipality to get affordable housing credit if it was a project just for veterans. The COA regulations require that any affordable housing development be affirmatively marketed to basically the world. So you can't limit it to just like a group such as homeless veterans. But the good news is that if we're before the court, we may be, which we are, we may be able to convince a judge that that kind of project we could get credit for, whereas before COA that would not be possible. But the bottom line is any projects on the table, this doesn't preclude anything. In fact, if anything, it fosters further development. The filing of this plan before the court basically says we're open to amending our plan, which we would have to do by the end of the year right now. And so if there's a developer that's interested in coming to town, now's the time to do it.
And I asked that question because our 3rd Congressional District Congressman Tom MacArthur, before he became our congressman, I asked him the question along his campaign trail, how would he reach out to our seniors and our veterans in Pemberton Township? I believe we're the 2nd largest veterans in Pemberton Township. Sorry. And he said that he will work very, very hard for affordable housing, assisted living for our veterans, and maybe perhaps, for our seniors. And so I'm asking this question so that, I can understand that, when the time will come, I'm hoping that it will come, that we all have a sit-down talk, and if I'm around, I don't know, about, our veterans. They have no place to go. They can't cut grass anymore. I only cut my own grass. But they're leaving. They have no place to go. My 92-year-old veteran across the street, Mr. Seavey, has his family down from Maine. They want to know where can he go, besides, Vineland or somewhere up in North Jersey and that sort of thing. So
well, there are all sorts of funding opportunities, not just through the federal government, but also through the Department of Community Affairs.
Okay.
Right? Through the state, there's all kinds of funding available for affordable housing projects.
Okay.
The thing is, it's not usually municipally driven. It's municipally supported, but not the municipality is not the developer.
Okay.
So the township would need a private developer to come to us and say, I want to do this kind of project, and we have certain powers under law to help assist that project.
Sure, okay. I understand a little bit better now. Thank you. Thank you very much. Where were we?
Administration.
Mr. Council President, I just wanted to remind the council that as the council had requested, Chief Jancis is here to answer council's questions with regard to, I believe, speeding and any other issues from the last 2 or 3 meetings.
Chief Jancis, would you like to come forward, please?
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Hello, Chief.
Council, were there any, I was not at the last meeting.
Well, no, we had Mr. Tompkins, and again, comments about his street not being enforced with
And
speed.
I regret that Mr. Tompkins is not here this evening. We've even provided Mr. Tompkins with the traffic study from his road, and the very clinical, sterile machine that we put out there indicates that his road is a low enforcement area, which means that people aren't routinely exceeding the speed limit 85% of the time. 85% of the motorists are being good motorists, not exceeding by more than 5 miles an hour, say. We went a little further. We've put selective enforcement out in Mr. Tompkins' area. I personally have gone and sat on Scrapetown Road, and I went to somebody that I thought would be a key person to validate if there was a problem there or not. That's our school crossing guard, Jennifer. Jennifer was more concerned with the people on the cell phones than the speeders, which is also a concern to me. We've paid attention to that area. I don't want to say it's an inordinate amount of attention, but we have given Mr. Tompkins, he likes to tell me he never sees a cop on the street. With the 5 times that I've been out there, I've never seen Mr. Tompkins, so I wanted to share that with him tonight. But we do pay attention to that road, as we do with a lot of hot spots that are in town. We agree that the system has indicated to us that there have been speeders at given times. What we like to do is we like to put the patrol officers out there at the times when they would be most effective, when there's the most speeders, when the children would be in peril. The study that we had more than once, it was actually 2 times I believe we put the traffic counter out there, didn't indicate any one given time. So it's very difficult to get someone. Really, folks, I see people violating the speed limit on my way to work in other towns as I'm driving through. You're going to have that. The question is it a pervasive problem? We've studied that. We don't believe that it has been, but of course, Mr. Tompkins has made an issue of it, and we've addressed it. And I think we've addressed it to at least my satisfaction. Any other questions about that?
I have one more. The gentleman sitting next to Miss Phillips, I've heard you mention your street. What's
Broadway.
Yes.
Broadway? Have there ever been...
there hasn't been a study, but there's been a study on Pear, which is adjacent to Broadway, just up a little bit closer to the train. At Broadway and that Pear Avenue, Pear, after being repaved, was a speedway. People just saw it as a long stretch of road that they could have a smooth ride on. We did put the traffic count out there, and in fact, that indicated that it was a high enforcement area with the amount of traffic that we had. So we put people out there, and we're seeing, actually, Mr. John Shaw, who's a former council member, was the one who reported the problem. We addressed it. We went out there with the counter. We found there was an actual problem, and we put the enforcement out there. I would be glad to get some numbers for Broadway, and we'll definitely take a look at that. I have to be honest with you, I do not have that on my list. I'm aware of Broadway over my entire career, because it's another one of those long stretches of roadway. And anytime you have a long or a stretch of roadway that's continuous with no stop signs and very windy, people like to see what the capabilities of their cars are. That's in any newly paved road. We saw it coming, and we put some enforcement out there on the East Lakeshore project that was completed, that there was some money rolled back to the state. We saw in advance that that was going to be a problem, especially with the traffic going to and from the base and the post. And we knew to put some enforcement out there pretty early.
Chief, you mentioned the word hotspot. What's considered a hotspot? What percentage?
It's not, hotspots aren't just referred to in traffic. It could be a narcotics hotspot.
Okay.
It could be, on the spreadsheet that I have, and I'm not at liberty to discuss the specifics of what's on there, but I put in who the person is complaining, and it could be anonymous, or it could be a named person like Mr. Tompkins. How it came in, whether it's through our tip line, our tip email, or did the person actually give us some other form of communication. When it came in, what type, whether it's traffic, narcotics, quality of life. We've gone to code enforcement and told them, hey, look, this isn't really our realm. Can you take a look at this for us or help us out with this particular issue? And we put dates that we might have been out there or some notes in there that how we've done enforcement. But with traffic, really, even if, let's say, with that clinical machine that I put out there that has no feelings, no emotions, and it tells me it's a low enforcement area, and 85% of the motoring public are behaving themselves. Well, I have a school right there, much like Mr. Tompkins talks about. If I have a daycare center, or if I have a deaf person in the area, well, then maybe 85% isn't acceptable, and we would identify that as a hot spot.
Chief, I have... Councilwoman Jackson, you?
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I have a question. I know there has been several accidents there. I think even on Broadway, Broadway. You're talking about from the light at the Little Red Schoolhouse.
Yes.
All the way down to the stop sign past the library. Your area is on to the right before the library. He's directly across from the library. So that's the county road. My question to you is that how can we bring in partnership? I remember years ago we was on the school board. When I was on the school board, we did share costs, and we would get incentives for share costs. We purchased a truck, and the township, joined in, and you got incentives for that. Can we go to the county and also ask them?
I'm a firm believer that Pemberton Township is not an island, and to give you an example, Sheriff Stanfield had grant money to go into communities and do traffic enforcement.
Okay.
I was one of the first chiefs to hop onto that and bring them in. That money has since been gone.
I know.
They are now doing pedestrian accidents on Route 130, which we don't have a big investment in 130 as we're on that different side of 206. When there are opportunities, we routinely invite, especially for heavy truck enforcement, so that we can go do other things, we invite the state police in. Now, if there's something out there that I'm not aware of that you can bring to my attention, or the administration can bring to my attention, where we can use an outside agency, I have no problem with that.
I'm sure
we don't
you
get
would.
problems solved by ourselves.
Sure. Thank you for that answer.
Well, Chief, thank you for being willing to come before the residents of the township, and Council, I think we have another question.
I have another question. I was wondering, I know we've had quite a few heroin-related deaths. Is there anything we can do as a community to get people together to make parents more knowledgeable or community more knowledgeable? I know the police have been using, what is that medicine called?
Narcan. And we actually, surprisingly, have been lower than a lot of other river towns in the use of Narcan. As a matter of fact, when we first got the antidote to the heroin overdose, what we refer to as Narcan, every officer carries a Narcan kit in his car, one. Some people need 2 or 3 to bring them out of that bad reaction. We report to the county. We're still in and you hate to say a wait-and-see type. Can we as an agency do more to publicize what the problems are out there? That's possible. I wouldn't be adverse to that, and it probably would be a good idea. I will tell you there is the notification program where if a person has a bad reaction to heroin, that people can call without fear of being arrested just to save that person's life. There'll be no charges for the possession or anything like that. On the heels of our reporting of using Narcan, at the person's last known address, which that can sometimes be problematic, at the person's last known address, a package is sent to them with resources for them. There's also, for the parents, doctors are prescribing Narcan to the parents of known, and you can take this for what it's worth. They're prescribing the Narcan to the families of known heroin addicts, so if they have a reaction at their homes, the parents can administer it.
Oh, that's a good thing to know.
Well, our job is to save lives, and our goal is to save lives, but ultimately, don't we want to stop the addiction?
Yeah.
I think programs like the Faith in Action, I think, I know, I'm aware of some grants. I know this wasn't what I was brought up here to talk about.
I know, but I'll answer,
But there's also 2 organizations I'm aware of that are supposed to be applied for grants. I don't know whether the Faith in Action was one of the grantees or not, but there's 2 other organizations that might be looking to come into our town to help with some of those issues. So maybe we can partner with them. Every Narcan call, every heroin overdose call that we go to occupies our time. It occupies EMS. We can be doing other things, like enforcing traffic on Scrapetown Road.
I think one of them are waiting for state funding. You know how that works, and the grant is through. And former Chief Joe Colin
Yes.
Yeah, I'm working with him on the side, and he
We actually
called.
provided letters of support
Mhm.
for both of those grants.
Good.
For recreation, but
Good.
letters of support.
Good. Well, reaches out to our schools, our parents, here I go again. And, I just love it. I really do. But if I was a parent, I knew my child was sick or on something like that, I know where to march them.
Well, there have been, and what made me think about it, there has been so
Sad.
many deaths
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Facebook, and you read so-and-so,
Sure.
and they're not young kids. Some of them are 40s, 30s, some of them are younger.
Not to make this go longer than it has to, but there was a major heroin operation that was affected in Essex County, New Jersey, and they put the pictures of all the buyers and the dealers on
Good.
a huge poster. And there was no one demographic that you could point to that was the heroin abuser.
Now,
It
Wow.
was doctors, there were
That's right.
doctors in there were professionals, there were Wall Street people, there were the underserved population of our community as well. So,
but it's been a concern of mine because I also know that I am aware of people that have even alcohol addiction, and there's really not a whole lot of support in our area for that. A lot of the places that used to provide them aren't, and that just made me think maybe we could come up with something. But I'm glad to hear about that group at Nesbitt, and we'll have to
Yes.
visit
as
with
part
them
of the
and see
Chiefs
what we can
Association,
do.
I've attended meetings with retired Chief Conlon and
Oh,
his
good.
organization and
Good.
schools. We went to the Kennedy Center in Willingboro.
Yes, JFK.
And met with a bunch of clergy and some other organizations and talked about this
Yes.
particular problem for the Narcan. That's how long we've had Narcan
Wow.
for about a year and a half now.
Okay.
And we just entered into an agreement. We didn't enter into an agreement, administration, the prosecutor's office,
Sure.
that the three major hospitals in our area are going to replenish our Narcan on a quarterly basis as we use it. That's going to save us some money. 'Cause,
good.
of course, we were paying $25 a kit. It's now $45 a kit. I think we're paying what the market will bear. So, but the hospitals, including Deborah, are going to, which really, other than Lourdes, Deborah is a heart and lung
Right.
research center,
Sure.
but it's Lourdes, it's Virtua, and Deborah Hospital that will be replenishing the Narcan kits for law enforcement.
Wow, good.
Wow.
Good to know.
Wow.
And my other question has to do with chaplains. Have we gotten any
I
further?
think that's another issue that's working itself out.
Okay.
Well, I'll take that off of my question there. I was going to ask the administration over there where we were with the clergy for police, but I'll take that out. And I looked up and I saw Pastor Glass back there. I jotted it down, but thank you very much. I'll save the residents a little time with me cutting off some of my conversation.
Chief, thank you for your research. Thank you for your willingness
Thank
to come
you.
out. I know
Anytime.
you're always willing. I've seen you at the BMIA building, the Country Lakes Homeowners Association meeting. So thank you again for coming before the residents
I
and
never turned down an
council.
invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack will be
Thank
on
you.
list. Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Council President, I have one more item, if I may.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to highlight for council and the public one of the resolutions that the council adopted, and I thank you for that. It's Resolution 156, and that resolution is an agreement between the township and Fantasy Island Properties. Fantasy Island Properties is owned by the Pepe family, and it's the Pepe family's island known as Treasure Island that we use for the annual water carnival, from which the fireworks at our water carnival are normally take place. So I wanted to point that out to you and highlight that. One, to thank the Pepe family for, I understand that they have supported this annual event in Pemberton Township for a long time. And the use of the island allows us to have better fireworks. Otherwise, we'd have to use smaller, less viewable fireworks. Also, as a part of this, there are a good number of employees that have participated in organizing the annual water carnival in Public Works, Recreation, Police, Fire, etc., EMS. They have all been working diligently to put on a good show this year, and it's scheduled for Saturday, July 25th, with the 26th as a rain date. So with that being said, I thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question. Dennis, I saw last week that the wooden gate fence was put around the Mirror Lake basketball court. Looks good. I was just wondering when the fencing was going to go around the concession stand across from the Mirror Lake beach.
I cannot answer that off the top of my head, but I can get an answer for you.
Okay.
Dennis, I apologize. I normally, I'm sorry, Council President?
Go ahead, Ms. Denny.
Thank you. I apologize. I normally get the email of complaints over to Amy, and with a lot on my plate here lately, I just overlooked this one, didn't send it, and I just quickly printed it out. It talks about the ordinance that we have for noise. When we first, adopted that, we had all equipment, people trained and that sort of thing. And a teacher sent this to me, and I want this for the record, that if you put something on Facebook, believe me, I want to market my town and not tear it down. Oh, that rhymes. Okay, let me keep quiet. So can I give this to...
Please, I'll be very happy to take a look at it.
Take a look at this. They want us to look at the noise ordinance because things are changing, and of course, I see changes in my neighborhood.
Interestingly enough, the chief and I had a conversation about the noise ordinance today, and we're going to be...
Wow.
It's one of the topics of discussion with Mr. Bayer for after the meeting.
Oh, I'm glad I copied this. Okay. So, to you, Amy, for administration.
That's good to hear. I know when we were talking about it before, it had something to do with the number of police officers that weren't trained to use the equipment, whether the equipment worked. But, residents should not have to put up with neighbors that are constantly loud and preventing them from sleep, when they have to work. So I'm glad to hear we are looking at that. Thank you.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for taking care of that.
Thank you. General public comments? Ms. Quinn.
Good evening again. A couple of questions I have. I have to go back to the purchase of the shelves. Just out of curiosity, if the shelving is for the clerk's office, why is Public Works purchasing it? That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, do we not have to wait until towards the end of the budget before we can start moving funds around to pay for other things? How is it that Public Works is buying something for the clerk's office?
Dennis, would you care to address that?
The administration is responsible for all of the property, and we don't buy things for any particular department or office. The decision making is based on the needs of the whole, and in this instance, part of the funding will be coming from the clerk's office, and part from code enforcement, and part from Public Works for the purchase of the shelves.
Okay, but it still doesn't answer the second part of my question.
The money is in the budget.
Yeah,
it's in other expenses in the budget.
And you don't have to wait until towards the end of the budget to move funds around? Because
we're not moving funds anywhere. We're using funds from other expenses in the budget.
Yeah, but I'm trying to understand this, I'm not trying to be difficult, but last year you moved monies out of two parts of the budget into the legal fees because there wasn't enough money to pay legal fees. So how is this not any different? If you're taking it from
the
different...
money's not being moved around, it's coming from three separate fund accounts. And that equals to $5,808. So it's not being shifted to another area.
It's already in the budget.
The other suggestion I have for council, I've been thinking on this for the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, the resident stood before you and asked you not to pass the $950,000 bond ordinance, which you voted down. The more I thought about it as I went home, and the more that I hear tonight about the various things and the way our government is, our town's government operates. Ms. Skull, if I can address you personally, I would very much like for you to follow through on what you said 2 weeks ago, in that you want to see every bond ordinance that was ever passed, where the money went, and how the money was spent.
I have the copies. I just was out of town for 2 weeks. I've had a chance to go through them all, but I have started looking at them.
Okay. The next thing I would like to suggest to the council is, in my way of thinking and understanding how the Faulkner Act operates and how the council has powers and how the administration has powers, there's nothing that I read to my understanding that would prevent council from wanting to get more involved with the township's budget. While Mr. Gonzalez said earlier that they have an open forum, you guys can view whatever you want, whenever you want. However, for the sake of the taxpayers and a lot of the questions that we have when it comes to the town's finances and how money is being spent, I would highly suggest to the council that they ask administration for a quarterly report as to how money is being spent every quarter. I don't think it's an unreasonable request, but I think by doing it, we the taxpayers would have a better idea as to what's going on instead of the arguments that seem to have developed over the last several months about how money is being spent. And, you know, we're left in the dark. And I mean, a lot of times we are. You know, you guys have a little more access to things than we do. For the sake of transparency on the part of the administration and on the part of council, I would highly suggest that this request be made, that a report be given to council every quarter as to how monies are being spent in the town. I just think it would be, we would know what's going on a little bit better, and we'd have maybe better answers to things than, you know, having to come back 2 weeks later because we're thinking about things and asking questions. And not to say that we don't ask questions, we wouldn't ask questions, but I think as council for the town and the fact that you guys approve the budget and then approve any purchases from the administration, that's not a bad idea to be asking for a quarterly report, and I would hope that you guys would seriously consider it. I think there needs to be a little more transparency with the part of the administration and with council with respect to the residents. And finally, unrelated to everything that's been going on, things have been quiet as far as the Brownsmill Shopping Center, and things have been quiet as far as the 3 properties on Juliustown Lakehurst Road. I'm just curious as to where things might stand with that, you know, if there's been any kind of development. I know a while back the mayor said he didn't want to come to the council with anything till he had something, but it's been awful quiet, and I'm just curious to know where things stand.
Mr. Gonzalez?
As to the Browns Mills Shopping Center, there is nothing to report at this time. As to the 3 properties that the council authorized the purchase of, we're going through, as your council will recall, there were certain contingencies, and that included appraisals, which we have. There was one property where there was an underground storage tank that has been removed by the owner. The owner will have to get DEP no further action letter for that, and that'll be completed, and the applications to the Pinelands with regard to demolition are before the Pinelands, and I believe they're supposed to act on them in the next month or a month and a half. And if I may ask to Mrs. Quinn's other issue about the quarterly report with regard to what we spend, we in fact give the council a report every 2 weeks with exactly what we spend, and that's what the bill list is.
I have it showing. And if you don't, do you mind if I just say one thing to you?
No, and I'm not, I'm not upset. I'm in extreme amount of pain, so if I'm standing here with a cockeyed look on my face, it's because I tore a muscle in my foot.
I'm sorry. Okay.
So, go ahead, you want to say something?
Oh, I just wanted to say, reiterate on what Mr. Gonzalez is saying. And Mr. Gonzalez, isn't this after we approved this on our webpage? Or we talked about it? Help me out here.
Did we
talk about posting that, huh? After we authorize it? No?
I don't believe that it goes on our website.
Right.
After it's approved,
it's open to the
it's
public,
something
right?
that we can, it is available to the public. And like I said, the bill list includes all of the expenditures that all of the payments that we propose to make, which the council has to vote on, and then the checks are sent out the next day unless the council pulls something and does not authorize a payment. And that report is provided every 2 weeks.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn.
I would appreciate you guys putting on the website if you could, just for my own curiosity. And just one final question, because I don't understand something that Mr. Gonzalez said, maybe to a point. The Browns Mills Shopping Center, you said there was nothing to report. Does that mean that you guys haven't been talking with anybody? I mean, to say there's nothing to report doesn't really satisfy my curiosity.
Dennis is shaking his head. At this time, there's been no movement, or they're, having discussions, and like you said, when they have something substantial to bring back to council and the residents, we'll hear from them.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn. Ms. Wadsworth, and then Mr. Prickett.
Claire Wadsworth, Browns Mills. I know you're not going to believe this, Miss Skull.
Not again.
Again. I want to thank you for not supporting the resolution that put shelving in the locker room. This municipality spent a lot of money creating that locker room for the police, and I think it should remain a locker room, and I think it is just more issues with what's going on with our police department, and that's why their locker room is now going to become a storage facility.
Are you reading my mind? Because that's
if
exactly
we are,
why I
boy,
put it that way. That's scary.
Hell just froze over, huh?
Scary.
I'd also like to report the successful fundraiser that I helped to organize for Operation Yellow Ribbon. We delivered 9 boxes that were at least this big, full of items for our troops, and we collected over $400. I don't have an exact amount because some of the jugs full of change were taken by the lead organizer from Operation Yellow Ribbon, and then they were used in a fundraiser the next day. So we don't have an exact amount, but with what I had collected, the donation from Rita's and T-shirts that were sold, it was definitely over $400. I think it was 408.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome.
yes, it really was, and it was a fun event. So with that, good night.
Claire, can I ask you a question, please? As I spoke tonight about the affordable housing for veterans, and you're pretty savvy with, our veterans here in the town with Operation Yellow Ribbon and those sorts of things, most of those veterans there. Would you be willing to sit down and maybe start, with a dialogue of nonpartisan,
Of course.
okay? Join hands together, nonpartisan.
Absolutely.
And start having maybe a conversation with putting some of our auxiliaries and VFW posts together and with the military people and see how they would like to feel. I mean, this has been a hard thing that I just dream that one day our veterans and our seniors don't have to leave Pemberton Township, that they would grow. Lake Valley was the first #1 veterans retiree development that many of the retirees came. A lot of them are leaving now. It was just an article in the newspaper with David Lizinski about a week ago. Burlington County is becoming a senior town. I don't know, maybe the youth have some place else to go. I don't know. I don't see many of them here tonight. But, sorry. You're not staying in Burlington County. And our veterans and our seniors, oh my God, is such a need. So would you be willing, and we can get some people together, nonpartisan, and sit down, have dialogue, and speak with some representatives? And like I said, I'm talking with Tom MacArthur's assistant, Bob Smythe or something like that. His last name is Bob Smythe. And because I asked this question when our congressman was running, I asked it of both parties that were running before they were elected. What would they do for Pemberton Township, for our veterans and our seniors? Would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely. I had invited Congressman MacArthur to the Operation Yellow Ribbon fundraiser, but he was in D.C.
Oh.
One of his other assistants, Jeff, and his last name escapes me.
Okay.
But Jeff did attend and gave me a very nice thank you letter from the congressman, and in return, I sent him an Operation Yellow Ribbon T-shirt.
Oh.
So, I would be happy to do that.
Just to start a dialogue.
Sure.
Where
Sure. I am all about my veterans and my military. There is
Again.
no one sitting in this room that would have the freedoms they have without them.
I wouldn't be here today. So,
And
again,
I do think they're undervalued. I do think they're underappreciated.
Yes.
market our town and not tear it down. That's
Absolutely.
my theory.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. I appreciate
Ms.
that.
Wadsworth. Mr. Rick Prickett.
Mr. Rick, okay.
Hey, Rick Prickett. Mr. Rick's okay. Let's remember last summer this time, I think, that terminology. My first concern is we've been talking about putting together a storage area for documents. And I'm just wondering whether those documents are of the importance that they need to be archived. And I'm not sure that building is fireproof, that could protect those materials if there was a fire. So I think that needs to be considered. I know the clerk's materials are in those vaults on the other side of the parking lot, and they're metal vaults. And so I'm just curious as to whether the council has considered whether that building is appropriate for, documents that need to be conserved over time. My original point to come up had to do with the general ledger again, and I wanted to know whether, Jason, whether the solicitor would allow a month of the general ledger or parts of the general ledger to be operate. We heard our business administrator say that there's transparency in finances, I think, to some degree. I think he said that. I'd like to know, I know that Mr. Bear approves Oprah requests, and I don't want to put him on the spot tonight, but at least on a preliminary decision, is that something that could be Oprah?
You're asking if it's illegal?
Yeah.
I mean, I know things could be
Well, just for the record, that's not technically true about, the clerk deals with most Oprah requests on her own. There's only, if the clerk has...
It depends to the attorney when there's litigation or other...
Right, or if the clerk has a...
Okay.
I see no reason why the general ledger, as long as it's a document, can be produced under Oprah. All financial documents within the town are operable. The only thing that would not be operable is personal payroll records, I believe.
Yes.
Anything to do with personal payroll items. Everything else is absolutely operable,
Okay.
unless it's part of a litigation settlement that hasn't been settled yet.
Well, that answers my question. Thank you. I
You're welcome.
get confused sometime when the chain of, but I do know that you're responsible for
Yes.
Oprah documents, processing them, but I also knew that frequently it went to the solicitor for the
Under certain
okay.
circumstances, yes.
One of the things I'm looking for in the general ledger is January 21st, 2015, the council passed a resolution 46-2015 authorizing the sale of scrap metal not needed for public purposes, and I had come before the council and asked about that, and they hadn't gotten back to me on, where that was sold and how much was made, what kind of revenue came in from that sale, and a follow-up on the previous commenter about a monthly or what is it, a report every 3 months. Yes, you do have the bill list that the council gets, but you don't have a revenue list. You have no idea how much money is coming into the town. And you also have no idea how, you could sit down and kind of calculate it, I guess, but how much money is being depleted from each department? How does each department stand as far as what reserves are left? So I was wondering if I Oprah'd 46-2015 and asked about who the recycler was that took in that scrap metal, would I be able to get an answer to that question through Oprah?
You can submit the Oprah, and that would be submitted to administration.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right.
If there is such a document.
Yeah, if there is a document, it depends. The resolution definitely does exist.
So there's a possibility the scrap wasn't sold?
I really
okay,
can't.
We'll see if we can find out.
Yeah, I really can't answer that question. Once you
Okay.
submit the Oprah, we'll be able to find out. Yeah.
All right. Another question I had was the tracker software under new business. Was that to track Public Works, or was that also to track other departments like the police department? And where was that? That was new business,
Public Works?
item A2.
Is this it?
That's it right
This is a software server.
Oh, it's a
Upgrade.
server?
Yeah, upgrade and support for 2015.
Tracker software upgrade and support from Tracker Software Corporation. That's software, that's not a server, or is it a server?
In our description, it says Public Works software server upgrade and support for 2015. Finish.
Service. It's not a server, it's for the service.
Okay, we have server.
It says server on the
Yeah, it says
paperwork.
server.
So Tracker Software is the name of the company, or it's the software that tracks whatever's going on with the server at Public Works.
Tracker Software Corporation is the name of the company.
Okay, that answers that question. Thank you. At the last meeting, you weren't here, Jason, but I asked about the bond rating for Pemberton Township. A number of years ago, the bond rating was capital B, small letter AA1, which is not a great bond rating. It's down at the bottom. If you go too much further, it's like a junk bond. It's not an investment-grade bond. And this township is very close to, from what I can see, from this bond rating to that point. And I was wondering, I asked at the last meeting whether I could find out what the current bond rating is for the township, and hopefully it has gone up some. Did anybody get that answer, or do we know what that is at this point?
I didn't get the answer, no.
Okay, well, I hope you think it's important, because at some point you go to borrow money through a bond ordinance, you're going to have to go to other than the bond market, because people aren't going to be willing to invest in the town if the rating gets too low. And along with a lower bond rating is an increase in interest rate that people charge you for borrowing money. So that's something I hope you're concerned about and you think is important. You just can't keep borrowing money. There's an end to it, and I just hope you're thinking about your future on the council and perhaps becoming mayor when this mayor, current mayor, is no longer mayor. You're going to be stuck very possibly with a high debt maintenance cost. And if you have a high debt maintenance cost, it's going to keep you from hiring employees. It's going to keep you from doing a lot of things, because right now it's $2.69 million. That's what it was this year. If it keeps going up, it's going to keep you from hiring, from doing things that you might like to do.
Now that would you say it's 26?
2.69 million.
Okay. Now I do believe our debt, we were working to decrease the debt,
Yes.
and I do believe it went up because we decided to do the dams, which were in need.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, that was $6 million, so that's why the debt increased.
Well, that's part of the reason why the debt increased. There's a number of good reasons why the debt increased. But, all the big projects have been funded. Now it's time to start bringing that debt down, bringing that debt maintenance cost down, so that you can afford to finance the next big project. I mean, I just said, that the bond rating is coming down. Please look into the bond rating. Google it and see what that means. You have a background in economics, I think, in business. If I remember you talking about that before. Check out what a bond rating means to a municipality. From what I understand, it's important. Another question that I have is the lawsuit that Sherry alluded to, the COA lawsuit. Is that to prevent a builder's remedy for the township? Is that?
Among other reasons.
Okay.
Yep.
And a builder's remedy is that if the township doesn't have a plan in place, then the builder can come in and say, well, I'm going to put in the housing wherever.
Right. Ask the court to rezone property at high levels of, high density in areas where it's not currently permitted.
So we're vaccinating ourselves against that? Excellent.
Bingo.
I thought Pineland's pretty much vaccinated us against
Really?
that.
Well, not all of our, not all of the property in
That
the
area
township is in the
206.
Pineland.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So I think you've probably heard about 10% of the township is not in Pineland.
I think we'd like that developed.
Just one last thing. I drove down Scrapetown Road a while back, and I really had to check quickly my speedometer, because I saw a banner out there having to do with reduce your speed, 25 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It was effective. And the guy that you were just talking about, Jack, put that up.
Yeah.
And a number of months ago, a guy, I think his name was Tom, came in. He works for the county. He cleans up our roads, the county roads, and does a fantastic job. And he came out on a number of occasions and said, can't you put signs up? No littering. Well, if you have driven down Church Road, headed towards Medford, right in between Southampton and Medford, there's a sign somebody nailed on the telephone pole, probably illegally. You're not supposed to nail things on telephone poles, but it says something to the effect, please don't throw your trash out here. And every time I go past there, I think, wow, that has impact. An individual sign like, reduce your speed, don't throw the trash out, as opposed to a regular speed sign or regular, no littering sign. The personal touch, I think, makes a difference. Thank you so much for your time.
Rick, if you have a second, please. We have some documents that you and... Oh, Council President, I'm sorry. Can I just address Rick for a minute? Oh, okay. You asked for some, and several conversations went on with the change form of government. I see about 4 people here talking about change form of government. And I believe about a couple months ago, we asked the solicitor if he would just get us some, just document on, how to go about that if residents had the desire to want change form of government under Faulkner. And Andy and his administration was so kind to bring, I just got it today. I haven't even had a chance to go over it. But Andy, did you want me to give Rick maybe a copy, or you want to give just a quick synopsis of what this change form of government is? Or, I mean, it's a public document now, right? No? Yes?
Well, we could discuss. We could discuss the topic, and we could provide the summary of the law. But the document itself is an attorney.
Gotcha.
I would just say that I have not stood up here advocating changing the form of
I
government.
know. It has been
have stood up here to say that I thought that the council could pass an ordinance to put the change of government on the ballot, whether it's to revert to the previous form or to start a charter study for another type of government. The council can do that, and it can also be done by petition. The public can get enough signatures together to force that in place.
I just want the public to know, so that it's very clear in case if someone wants to go on Facebook with this, that we do listen to our residents. We do. We certainly do. We're not deaf-eared up here. We have our own opinion, and it is respected by each person. I believe, I just want to say this real quick. I went on Facebook, and it says, oh, Sherry and Diane vote together all the time. Sherry and Diane vote together. Well, here was a very good example tonight of our thought process and our meeting. So I just want to make sure that if anyone wants to go on Facebook with this, that they do it right. Okay, well, that's fine, sir. I see you shaking
I would just like to say that, from my point of view, I'd like to see this form of government work as long as this form is in place. It's not easy to change the government. It's not easy to even change parts of the Faulkner Act that we're under. It took, before when we went from concurrent to staggered terms, it took the council to agree to that and pass an ordinance and then put it on the ballot for the public to vote on and then finally approve. I'm all for, and I think I've expressed myself that as long as I've been coming up here, I've hoped that you would deliberate publicly so I could understand what your thinking was in coming to a decision. I have provided you, hopefully, not so much with my opinion, but with ideas, facts, questions
and
that I hope that you research and give adequate measure to.
We did.
Because there's a lot of people in the community that are knowledgeable, especially in their own perspectives, in their own specific areas. And that's the purpose of the council, to listen to what people have to say and try to answer their questions and measure to see whether it fits into their thinking, into what is benefit to the town.
And that's what I brought it out for. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prickett.
You're welcome.
Ms. Phillips and then Mr. Braylon, Deacon Braylon.
Good evening, everybody in general.
Good evening.
I'm going to ask a question. I know, Jason, you were not here in the last meeting. I asked the administration in reference to the millets where on Presidential Lake between Florida Trail, Connecticut Trail, and Tennessee Trail. There were 3 mountains. Administrator stated that they did not see anything, but I said to them, I got my copies. Here is the copies. Okay, I stated to the administration that night, if they're not going to take care of my problem, I will take care of my problem on my own. 6/26, I called the EP. VP connect me with the person is in charge of Burlington County. I spoke to her. I brought my complaint to them. They stated to me point blank, they will be forward this problem to the administration. I also stated to her they are like to have a reply back. She stated it's okay. Until this day, this has happened 6/26. Today is 7/15/15. I haven't received a reply for the EP, or I haven't received a reply for the Pemberton Township administration. On the top of that, I stated to her my problem in reference to the wells, Presidential Lake, dependent for water, wells. And that was my concern. All those chemicals seep into my wells. She stated to me, she can give me this number and I can call them. But this was insurance company. And she stated also that I had to pay the price. Why I had to pay the price? When I did not accumulate a problem, our administration did. At this time, I'm waiting for my reply for the EP, and I will go forward with the water problem. I just hope the administration at least send me a letter and see what happened. I know they send it to you people. Okay, my second thing what I have in here, I'm speaking on behalf of the Presidential Lake Civic Association. I attended my meeting last night, and one of the things was brought up to me. Police patrolling brought it to me what is going on in the community. And the main thing they asking me to ask the administration, approximately, when will be the fire department open in Presidential Lake to the residents? Can somebody answer me that question, the president or the over there or over here? I need an answer.
Well,
because
I could just generally comment that I'm in communication with Presidential Lake's attorney about setting up a closing date. We haven't closed till the ordinance was effective, and now I'm waiting to get hear back from the PL lawyer about when we're going to close, which should be relatively soon. And then after that, then you have the building issues. But we don't own the building yet. We haven't closed.
I know that.
And the rest, in part, depends on whether the organization can get all of the junk that's in there out.
I understand that, Mr. Gonzalez. I'm part of that. Okay, also, I want to bring it up something very, very important, and this is for my development. On June 30, I called the Public Works. 4th of July is coming. I stated to her, if it's any possible, they can send Public Work to cut the lawn in the 3 entrances of Presidential Lake. Will be the main one, will be Whisper Pine, and will be Dakota Trail. Today is 7/15/15, haven't happened. And the reason I called at that time was because I wanted to decorate the entrance. I went and bought a beautiful flag and I put it there. Unfortunately, the day I was going to put a flag there was a very bad accident. And where I want to make my point is, our mayor stated, the resident in Presidential Lake, they don't have to worry about it for fire service. We got woodland across the street. But you know what? It has been a house been gone before anybody got there. I can tell you the time the police arrived there, can tell you the time that everybody got there. Well, not 7 minutes, was not 5 minutes either. Between life and death, as a firefighter in the fire fields, every single second count when it's something like that happening. And I just hope their administration look very, very careful and put the fire truck in the building as soon as they get a building. The reason the building is like that, because you people made it that way. Not because we made it. You guys closed us down. We cannot get no money for the stone to do anything. Okay, my next thing, what I'm going is telling them I just want to know what the intention for Presidential Lakes residents. They are asking me, they go and get their community center. My reply to them, I was told, if I'm not mistaken, in one of the meetings here, yes, we're going to have a community center there. And I know there is plenty of space in there, because I belong in there.